exchanged and gave it to me. If I forget, one of the things that I am going to say and emphasize on is the whole question of indigenous knowledge, and I would call it collective memory. Because I have just realized, before I go into what I'm talking about today, that we are talking about change. Question should be change. This climate change, what has changed? Who knows what has changed? We are telling everybody, school child, everybody, we are addressing climate change. In other words, we want to restore. What are we restoring? Do we know it? And that calls us to take seriously indigenous knowledge. The names that people have given to villages have meaning, for example. There's a lot of wisdom that the younger generation can only gain if they listen to those who have lived long enough to be able to know that this is a path for the animals, this is a path for the snakes, this is a path for the water. And so when we talk about climate change, we should also say, yes, it's a problem, but what is the ideal situation? I thought that I can open up this space. I do not want to take the entire time because it is a whole panel, just to speak to this theme from my experience as a biblical scholar. I teach Old Testament, and when this opportunity came, I was challenged to share a few thoughts about climate. I'm limited in English. I didn't know that people from UK would come here, so I tried to coin my own English. And I said, I don't want to speak about climate change, but climate stasis. And I want to speak is the God-given standard environment and therefore standard climate. And so, top in the picture of this, where I have put climate, there's that picture, the drawing of what they call the cosmology. The cosmology, the study of the cosmos from the understanding of the ancient Near Eastern communities. The cosmos, ecology, what happens in there, we get that drawing that I've put there. I've picked it, it's common. You can also find it in the RSV Bible. But it's a description of the earth. And so we find that the heavens has the imagination or the presentation of the Holy Scripture, the Bible, the Old and the Bible. We have what we call the rakia, the dome, which is translated as the firmament, which then separates the waters from above and the waters below. And then the earth is there, and then under the earth is waters, so that the earth is floating on water, but on the edges also there are rocks that are tying the earth to fix it. And so there are 4 pillars down there. If you have read the story of Jonah, you find that he went down into the roots of the earth. So this is the kind of a cognitive understanding in the ancient Near East, where also we find ancient Israel and the context in which our Bible was written. About science and faith. And I want to begin by saying that this course on climate change and its consequences is timely. Climate change is the greatest challenge to humanity today. The conversation must also look at the causal factors and mitigation strategies. And therefore, there must be a deliberate dialogue between climate scientists and the faith community. We are brought here together as people of faith. You know, here we have various denominations. We also have various faiths. We have the Muslims around. We have the African traditional practitioners. We want to look at these issues together and see what brings us, how we can engage science in it. There is need to combine science and faith in combating climate change. And it is true, to the best of my knowledge, that both science and theology and faith are human activities. Science to focus on observable world, the creation, and faith or theology to study God's self-revelation. We never talk about God or discovering God. God reveals himself. And that's the question. That's where we are. As Christians, as Muslims, we get to understand God when he graciously reveals himself. And that's where faith is. And then reveals his will in various aspects of human life. But there is a problem between these two enterprises. The roots of science can be traced back to creation mandate in Genesis 1:26 to 28. I like this verse. I speak about it in different ways. But here is where we get what we call the creation mandate. God is actually instructing human beings and giving them permission to create culture. And that culture, in my view, must include science. Because culture is anything that a human being does on top of what God has provided. Science is that attempt to add to what God has already provided. And so when you have clothes, that is culture. When you are born without culture, and you grow up. When you get land and there is a river, that is what God has provided. When you do irrigation, that is a culture. And therefore, when we look at that text very keenly, we find an instruction to subdue the earth and rule over the rest of our creation. There's a lot of debate on what is the image of God, but here we must know that subduing would call for use of technology. And man